because it's better. So we'll just.
Okay. All right. Avi, how we doing? We good? Okay, excellent. Usually I use my voice, but they're telling me I need to use this for the streaming, so I apologize. I'm going to sound like, I don't know. Wow. Anyway, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in for our town hall meeting in regards to the state scholarship program. And it's certainly a lot of great information that's coming out. And our goal tonight is to hopefully educate everybody on the scholarship program, what it is, how it can benefit you as a family, how it's going to impact our school as a school, and kind of what the forward-thinking process is, not just for next year, but subsequent years in regards to what our Board of Trustees and our vestry has decided in terms of accepting these scholarships. So let me first by saying and introducing Flavia Duddy. So Flavia, would you please stand up for a second? Just come over here so they can see you on camera for a second. So Flavia Duddy was going to co-present with me tonight, but unfortunately her voice is a little raspy, so she's just going to wave hello. But Flavia Duddy is our scholarship coordinator. So she is really the resource underneath Lower Minor's admissions office and as well as our business office to really answer any of those questions. So when you leave tonight, or if you're online and you have questions, Flavia Duddy, we're going to put her information up for you. She's in our office. She's located upstairs by Emily McCrader in the advancement office, upstairs right near my office in the admin. But she knows everybody over at the state. She knows people at Step Up. So if you have particular questions about certain things on the scholarship, she is your resource. And if she doesn't know the answer, she'll go find it for you. So, obviously, we're really excited to have her on board. And she's already knee-deep in learning all the particulars of it and so forth, which some will share this evening. So thank you, Flavia. Appreciate it. What I'm going to do tonight is I plan to spend about 20 minutes going through it, and then I will open it up for question and answers. In terms of Avi, online, do we have an option for questions and answers online or questions online? Do we know? Not really? Okay. So I know we set it up a certain way. So if you're online and you do have questions about the scholarship, please shoot an email to Flavia, or you can shoot it to myself or to Laura Minor. We'll forward it to Flavia and we'll make sure we get those questions answered. But we'll spend some time answering that today for those who are here. So one of the things that we want to make sure, and again also too, we'll be sending out this will be recorded, so if anybody needs to refer back to it, they can. We'll also send out this presentation. I'm not going to refer to it too much because it's very heavy in language. It was built that way just so that when we send it out, it has a lot of information. So I'm going to kind of run through it and go from there. So let's start with terms of what is the scholarships and what are these things. If you've never been involved in before, kind of what is the state scholarship program, what does that look like, who funds it, and those sort of things. So a couple of it. First of all, state scholarships started a long time ago with Jeb Bush when he was governor of Florida, and really started bringing in choice for schools. And they really started with identifying those students that had either learning difficulties or had some sort of medical condition that it was really hard for them to be able to be in public schools, and the state of Florida wanted to give them options to seek better education through the private school system, whether it be the charter system or whether it be through private schools. And so thus born the scholarship program. And so there was different designations under which those could apply. Over the last 15 to 20 years, those scholarships have expanded in a couple of different ways. One is we think of is the Empowerment Scholarship, which we'll talk about tonight, as well as the Hope Scholarship. And some of those were brought about just by changes that were going about in our system and identifying. So for example, Hope was brought for those families who felt like their child had been bullied in public schools to the point where they could not be there on a daily basis. It was a mental harm to that child. So the Hope Scholarship allows parents to take certain scholarship money and apply that towards a private school education. That came about 5-6 years ago. And then you also have the Empowerment Scholarship, which was brought about right about the same time, and that was for low-income families who were in school districts or were assigned to a school in which the grade for that school was, in the D's or the F's. Basically, it was a failing school, and it gave those parents the opportunity to say, look, I want better for my child. Public school system is not going to be able to turn around fast enough. I can now take these state scholarship dollars and try to go to a private school. So the whole process has been, over about a 20-year maturation period. And the state of Florida leads the country in terms of these types of scholarships. A lot of other states have modeled themselves after the state of Florida, not only on the scholarship side, but also on Florida Virtual. There's been a lot of improvements. If you remember back, I know when I went to school, when I was high school, I think Florida was ranked like 47th in public school system. It was horrible, and now we're ranked like in the low 20s. It is just the amount of effort that's been put into the education has been significant and has been commendable. But what has happened now is we've now come to a period where our state has decided from a scholarship point of view that they want to be able to remove some of the restrictions on the empowerment. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There are several different scholarships. So if any of you have ever had, the scholarships that refer to, they're usually like 501, 502, 503, which has to do with learning difficulties, those scholarships are still available, okay? If you have the Gardner Scholarship, that scholarship is still available. And Gardner has to do really with those students that have medical needs and those sort of things. Hope Scholarship is still there. Really what has changed is what's called the Empowerment Scholarship, okay? Right off the bat, you can only get one scholarship. You can't get more than one. So just know and we have a few families that do have some of those scholarships. To date, St. Mark's has never accepted state scholarships, and I'll get into why and why we changed our mind. But for the most part, we do know the one scholarship that doesn't affect us, that we have a couple different kids here, is that Gardner Scholarship, because they can use that outside of the private school system for whether it be medical needs, tutoring, and some other things that go into that phase. So let's get into kind of the nitty-gritty here for a second. And let's talk about Educational Options Programs, the FESEO, which is the Family Empowerment Scholarship. This was the one change that was made at the state level recently in this legislative session. They've been trying to get this passed for the last 2 years, and they finally were able to pass it this year. And what they have done is, as I stated earlier, that the Empowerment Scholarship was based on your income level. And it was basically 2 deviations within the poverty level. So basically it was about $66,000 AGI, adjusted gross income, or below, was able to qualify for the Empowerment Scholarship. They had a secondary tier that if money was available, individuals that had an AGI up to $110,000 could apply for it, and as long as there were funds available, they would get it. I would tell you in the last 5 years, everybody within that group has gotten the full scholarship, and it's roughly around $7,500 is what it's been for the last several years. What the state legislation did this last session and finally got through was they removed the top-end qualification. So now, basically, anybody with any AGI, so in essence, there's no income level now required, can apply to get the Empowerment Scholarship. There is a pecking order, and we'll get to that in a minute. So the Family Empowerment Scholarship was obviously passed on March 27th, 2027, and it is eligible to any kindergarten, and this is important, kindergarten through 12th grade. So I know some of you in here have high school students and students here at St. Mark's. This applies to high school students as well, okay? So it's K through 12. It is for each student, not each family. So if you have one kid, apply for one scholarship. If you have 2 kids, apply for 2. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6. I don't think we have 6. Do we have anybody with 6 kids? God bless them if they do. So, however many children you have, it is per child, okay, which is important to understand. But the qualifications for the new Empowerment Scholarship as of March is that as long as you attend a private school and you pay private school tuition, you are eligible for this scholarship. So that means every single parent and child here at St. Mark's from K to 8 is eligible to receive this scholarship. Okay? So, eligibility requirements. Now, what we look at is there are some different pecking orders. So if you read the news or you followed some of the news, there's been, when this bill was in the legislation and they were looking at it, there was 2 different views in terms of how they were going to fund this. Number one is they have more money in the fund now than they need. So they have a surplus, which has really helped get this law across the line. State legislation, one part of state legislation says it's going to be about $240 million in terms of cost of Florida. The other side says it's going to be $4 billion. So, don't know where it's going to land, but what they've designed is a way that it is a pecking order. And again, we are learning a lot about how the money, we know how the money is going to be distributed on a scholarship basis. What we're not 100% sure is this kind of leveling that they've put into place. So it's going to be a little bit of learning how the process goes this year in terms of how many people apply, okay? The overall amount that they have set aside for the Tier 1 and Tier 2, and if there's enough money, Tier 3 as well, which is that 8,500, is that correct, or is it 8,700? 7,700 last year. They're predicting it might be 8,500, but that's what they're predicting. That's per child, okay? But last year was 7,700. The way it's going to work, and this is, I think, in terms of when you look at it, those that have an AGI below 110, I think you're going to get the full scholarship. That is what history has shown us. That's what I think is going to happen. Anybody above 110, I think you're going to get the scholarship. You might get 7,700, you might get 7, you might get 6, you might get 5. You're going to get something. What that is, I have no visibility to right now, okay? But I do know that, you know, there is money there, and everyone is eligible for it who attends St. Mark's, okay? What you're going to do, and as we go through this a little bit, I'll talk about what are called FSOs, but I want to take a second and just backtrack a little bit to why St. Mark's has decided to take the scholarships, okay? So, you know, obviously we've been watching this very closely for probably since October, knowing that there was a real legislative push. We've been, St. Mark's is members to several accreditations as well as national associations. The strongest one here is Florida Council of Independent Schools. So schools like Pinecrest, North Broward Prep, you know, Ransom, Gulliver, you name it. Most independent schools, Episcopal schools, belong to Florida Council of Independent Schools. We're the largest independent school body. We have people up in Tallahassee who watch this stuff for us to make sure that, you know, whatever's coming through the legislation, that there's no surprises for us in terms of those things. So we've been watching this very carefully, and we knew kind of it was coming, you know, and we thought right after kind of subcommittee that they had the votes to push this through this year. So we put together, the Board of Trustees was forethinking enough to put together a task force that included both lawyers as well as several different individuals, including people from our diocese, from the religious part, to really understand, okay, how's this going to impact us? Because we do know there's a lot of things out there that are being said. Some are true, some are just rhetoric, and we want to know, how is this going to impact us as a school? So one of the things that we quickly discovered is that, you know, from if we were to accept the scholarships, in terms of how that would change us. And what we found is it's not going to change us at all, at least right now, okay? First of all, one of the things you have to know about St. Mark's is because we have a preschool, we are licensed by DCF. Because we're licensed by DCF, there are certain things we need to do, like background checks, reporting structures, everything like that. We take those rules across the entire school, not just our early childhood program. A lot of those things is exactly what the scholarship programs require. So a lot of it is reporting. So for example, if we were to have an employee who abused a child physically, not only do we report that to police, we also have to report that to the State Board of Education. They will do a investigation, and they'll come down and talk to us, talk to everything that happened. That is a requirement of accepting these scholarships. We have to do that anyway because of DCF. So a lot of those things are required. In terms of testing, and this is the big thing that always comes up in regards to these scholarships, you know, what testing is required? Well, first of all, the testing that was required, we do already. The STAR, which you guys know, we test. That is something we do on a 3 times a year. That is a, it's not required, but it's on the list of exams that is, the state of Florida puts out a list of standardized testing that if you take the straight scholarships, they want to be able to, you know, look at. It doesn't mean they will, but they want to be able to refer back to that because, again, it's state dollars. They want to make sure that we're not some run-of-the-mill, you know, charter school that opened up in a mini mall, okay, and we've all seen those in the news, that, you know, is there to take the money and not educate children. Unfortunately, we do have some of those in the state of Florida, okay? But obviously that is not us. So we have the STAR, and our STARs show that we are almost 1.5 years to 2 years ahead compared to the national, compared to the Florida average in public schools. So we are, you know, feel very confident we can prove that we're spending the money wisely. Number 2 is we also do the Terra Novas. So we do 2 of the tests on LIS. We only have to do 1. We do both. And we've been doing that for years, okay? So as far as the testing requirement is concerned, doesn't change us. That's really the bulk of the requirements at this time. There is nothing else. There's nothing to say what books we have to have in our library. There's nothing to say in regards to what we can or cannot teach. There's nothing to say that we can't have the conversation that we've always had. So from our perspective, from our legal perspective, okay, and we have one of the best law firms in the nation in terms of private schools that's on retainer for St. Mark's, and we've gone through it. They are the same lawyer that Pinecrest uses, same lawyer that everybody, so we look at it from every single point of view. And we had the extra layer of looking at it from the religious point of view, because we are an Episcopal school. So we want to make sure that, you know, from our Episcopal side, we can still deliver our mission that all of you expect us to do, and that's why you're here. So all of that checked the boxes with a little star. You know those little asterisk notes we always worry about, okay? That little asterisk note is where the Board of Trustee and the vestry comes in. And what we did was we decided as a school, one, that the benefit to our entire community, you know, we look at things like we raised tuition by 6% for next year because of inflation and cost and so forth. We know that your costs have probably gone up even more than that. We know that a lot of our families are trying to save money for college and so forth. And when you have a scholarship program, that's not going to change us as an institution, but it is there to help our families just save more. You know, we thought we had a responsibility to you as parents to really look at this, and when we looked at it, we said, you know, this is going to be a good benefit for a lot of our families. So we decided to go ahead. But that little asterisk, as I talk about, is up there, is that this scholarship is approved on a year-by-year basis. What do I mean? It's not that the state has approved us year by year. It's our Board of Trustees and our vestries said right now, the way it's written, we don't see an issue. If that changes and it stops us from being who we are and delivering the mission for which you guys have your children here for, then we're going to stop taking it. So that's an important note because I want to make sure all of our parents understand we want you to go get this scholarship. We want you to use it to your benefit. We want it to help you, whether it be that you put away $8,000 this year for, you know, college tuition, whether it is you use it to, you know, help with whatever it is that you need help with. We want you to go seek it. We want you to go, and we're going to help you, you know, and give you the information to do so. But please understand, it is year by year. If something doesn't change, we'll move it into next year. And it'll be voted upon every year during tuition and re-enrollment period, so you will know if we're accepting it and going forward in that sense. So with that being said, I'm going to pause for a second before I get into kind of the details of some of the other slides about what are SFOs, how do you go about applying for this, so forth and so on. Are there any questions about why St. Mark's has taken the scholarship that I can answer at this point that I haven't already clarified in some way? My team knows I wait 7 seconds, so it's like I have the 7-second rule. I wait 7 seconds. If there's a question, it's coming up at 6.8 seconds. Yeah. Yes, this is going to be sent out to everybody, so you guys will have all this information on here. And this is being broadcasted live, but it's also being recorded, and it'll be available for replay. Exactly. Okay, so with that being said, what we're going to do at this point is talk a little bit about what FSOs are. So SFOs are state funding organizations. If you've ever heard of these scholarships, there's probably two names that have come up, and you're like, what is Step Up and what is AAA? And most people say, oh, I got Step Up. You hear that at other schools, okay? Step Up is not the scholarship. It's the Empowerment Scholarship, Hope Scholarship, there's names to these scholarships. Step Up and AAA are what we call state funding organizations. They are private companies for which the state has hired to manage the distribution and qualification for these scholarships, okay? There's no difference between the two except for how they operate to some degree. Quick example, AAA, when they send the money, they send it via a formal check. It comes in the mail to us and so forth. Step Up sends it electronically. So it's a little faster, a little easier, in terms of the back end operations for the school. So, if you're deciding between which one, we would suggest you use Step Up because it's a little easier for us and a little less work on our side. The applications are exactly the same. You go online for both of them, you fill out the information, and you go from there. But SFO is very important because it is either Step Up or AAA. Those are the two organizations. There's no other out there. So if you come and you do a web search, state scholarships, I found this, BBB scholarship. No. AAA or Step Up. Those are the only two FSOs in the state of Florida. So, get back to the next slide. So we talked about the average amount. Last year was $7,700. State legislation says they were predicting around $8,500 to $8,700. It does go up year by year. So they do look at cost of increase and try to factor that in. So that's one of the reasons that we're predicting a higher amount next year because they're baking in inflation from this last year that right now is sitting at about 6.5%, 7%. So, but we won't know that until they get to the award amount, okay? Now, how does it get awarded? So this is important because I know this is a lot of questions I've got from families and so forth. And we do have, as many of you know, St. Mark's has a financial aid process, and we do have families that receive financial aid, and we help them have a St. Mark's education here. We have been working with those families already for the last 3 weeks in anticipation of this because some of our policies changed with our financial aid process. So if you have specific financial aid questions, if you're a financial aid family, what I would say is please reach out to Laura or Flavia, and we'll be happy to answer those individual questions from there. So I'm really just going to address this is for our families who are paying full tuition, and how is this going to work in that sense if I have a monthly payment, if I have a two-time payment, if I have a one-time payment. So first and foremost, the Empowerment Scholarship is a scholarship in which when you receive it, you have to be attending a private school. When you make your application, you're going to list St. Mark's Episcopal School as your school that your kids are attending. During that application process, the SFO, Step Up or AAA, is going to send us a note saying that so-and-so has applied. Can you verify enrollment? Okay? And we will verify enrollment for the 23-24 year. Yes, they are enrolled for the 23-24 year. At that point, then you will obviously, they will notify you in a particular time that you have received the scholarship and at what amount you're receiving. Okay? The important thing is to remember, call Flavia Duddy and let her know that you have received it, okay? Because that way we can double check it. Because what happens is, the way they pay out these scholarships is they pay it out on a quarterly basis. So if you take, let's just use 8,000, because I don't want to divide 8,700 by 4, although I should test our students here tonight. So, but 8,000, so quarter one, which is usually the first payment is at the end of September, we'll get a $2,000, let's say Dr. Rotella applied for the scholarship, she got the scholarship, you got 8,000, congratulations. And she, on September 30th, we get a $2,000 check with her name on it. Step Up, we get a list of names and just one check, which is the nice thing about Step Up. But what we will do at that point, okay, is that when the business office receives that, they will go into your fax account and they will credit your fax account with $2,000, okay? If you're on a monthly payment plan, your monthly payment plan stays exactly the same. It does not change, okay? Your account just gets credited. What means, though, is towards the end of the year, you're going to end up with a positive balance. And you can call the business office and talk to them at that point, or you can wait for a refund, and I'll get to that in a second, okay? But you'll get to $2,000. In December is the second quarterly payment. Then it comes like the end of February, and then it's like the end of March. April is the third, okay? So for those that get the scholarship, please understand, when you're awarded it, it doesn't mean the state sends us a check for 8,000 whatever some odd dollars, how much you were awarded scholarship-wise, okay? It is broken up into payments, and we receive it on a quarterly basis. And by the way, every quarter we have to verify that your child is still enrolled, child or children is enrolled at St. Mark's. This is the checks and balances that they've put into place, okay? So once we get that money, we will notify that we have received your quarterly payment. You will see a credit within your fax account, and then we go from there. So first question I get, well, Dr. Tanner, if I paid in full for tuition for the year, can I then get a refund right then and there? And the answer is no. But you can use that, for example, if you're paying for enrichments, if you're paying for lunches, if you're paying for a field trip. That is a positive credit. That will help you in those areas, okay? So those extra payments, they will get, you just, and again, what it is once you've paid in full, you've put a positive balance into your account, and all we're doing is taking out some of that tuition full fund and applying it to your enrichments, okay, and replacing the scholarship tuition kind of as a swap. Does that make sense? Okay. So what happens at the end of the year when, let's say you paid tuition in full and you did no enrichments, you didn't buy lunch, anything, so you got 8,000 in your account at the end of the year, okay? I'll try to charge you for something, I promise. So, but no, let's say for argument's sake you have 8,000, okay? At the end of the year, when we receive that last, we will contact you. And our business office will say, would you like a refund check at that time? Would you like to apply it to next year's tuition? Okay. Would you like to apply it to, a donation to the Parents Association or to something else that you feel, is a worthy cause within St. Mark's? Okay. So from that end, there will be options for you, but we will do refunds once a year. Okay. If there is an extraordinary case in regards to that, okay, and there's something happens, obviously, listen, we're a small enough community, we'll work with every single parent. But what we don't want to be doing is issuing refund checks, every 2 months. That's just, it's a large amount of responsibility for our business office. It adds cost. Anytime we add costs like that, it means tuition's got to go up. So we're trying to manage that within our own operation and not have to bring on extra parent resources in order to facilitate that. So we're going to do that at the end of the year, and you can do that. Now, if one of the questions that came out is, Spence, what if I paid in full and it's re-enrollment time and I have my deposit and I have that positive balance sitting there? You can use that positive balance for re-enrollment deposits, okay? So again, it's a positive balance. Anything that gets charged to your fax account, okay, that balance will move towards. Make sense? Okay. So in terms of applying in the SFOs, so what we want to make sure is, first and foremost, you want to make sure, and we will send out information. Let me qualify from the very beginning. We are not the state. We have no control over this application. We have no control over whether you are approved or not approved. We are simply the recipient, as you are, of the funds. It is the state of Florida. They're in control, okay? But obviously, if you have questions, Flavia Duddy is here to help. So one of the questions I get, well, Dr. Tanner, if everybody qualifies for this, what happens if I'm denied? If you're denied, it probably means something on your application wasn't correct. Call Flavia Duddy immediately. She will get on the phone with Step Up or AAA. She'll find out kind of what happened. It might just mean we need to resubmit, and we'll go ahead and resubmit and so forth. That is what we understand, okay, from the process. But from what we've understood, everybody. Now, the question is, well, Spence, you know, we have to submit our income. Does the school see that? No, we don't see it. We are not connected to them in any way. Our system is not connected. What your family earns, what your assets, that is your business, not ours, unless you're applying for financial aid at St. Mark's or for financial aid through our financial aid process. But state of Florida, we have nothing. We don't see it. All we do is we get, you contact us when you get the scholarship. Other than that, the only time we hear from the state is when we get a list of names with a check. That's it. So that's why it's really important for us to know that you've gotten it, because we can verify and cross-check. And again, sometimes it might be, hey, Kitty calls me and says, I don't see a positive balance on my account, and I know the checks came in, it's been 2 weeks, where is it? And we're like, Kitty, you never told us you got it, and your name wasn't on the list. We could have verified right then and there, knowing you got it, because they do make mistakes, okay? So we want to make sure we're all in communication on that. But you are going to go to, we put the Step Up website here because, again, if you can apply to either one. It doesn't make a difference to us, but if you're asking us, we really would like for you to go to Step Up. It probably handles 90% of all the scholarships. They're really easy to communicate with. They're a larger organization. Back of house, it's better for us because of just how they deliver the money. It's easier to track and things like that. So what we have been told is that application process, originally, about a month ago, we were told the application process will open on July 1. We have now been told that it may open up within the week, okay? We will, when it opens up, we will send out a notification via email, via Facebook, and so forth. So it's important to watch out for it. And it will say State Scholarship Portal Open. That's what the title will be, okay? And we'll put this slide with the link and so forth, and you go there and you fill it out and you go through it and you wait till it gets cleared and so forth. My suggestion is, if you're interested in having this for your family, sign up for it right away, okay? Because I think the sooner the better, and certainly, I can't say that, the sooner is, you're in the front of the line, but we just don't know how that's going to work. So it may be that they go through round one and issue a certain amount, and then if you're late, you may not get the full amount. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but especially if you're above that 110. Okay, I think if you're below the 110, if you're a little bit, delayed, if you apply in July instead of June, I don't think it's going to make a difference to what you receive. But I think over 110, it may or may not. That is my speculation. Okay, do not take that, any other way than it is just my thought. It has not been said to us, but again, nothing has been really said to us in that fashion. So we're flying blind a little bit in that side. Okay. Also, I'm going to repeat again because I know we're going to have parents who ask this all the time. It is kindergarten through 8th grade. So if you're a family that has a kindergartner and a pre-K 3, you can only apply for your kindergartner. Okay. And that is kindergarten for the 23-24. So if you're in pre-K 4 this year and you're going to be kindergarten next year, apply. You can. Okay. And if you have students in high school, check with your high schools to make sure that they receive the scholarship. For those that have students at Gibbons and St. Thomas, we do know they're accepting those, and you can apply for those, okay? And going back to my original statement, if you're one of those families that has already had a scholarship, we know for a fact, because we've spoken to the state about it, you cannot get two. It is one or the other. You have to make a choice in that sense. And this is just the flow process that we have already talked about in terms of just making sure, and again, what's most important is after they verify the school, they're going to contact us, and you want to make sure that you let us know that you're applying for it, and then when you receive it, make sure you let us know, quarterly payment, they're going to notify you when that quarterly payment is going. Let us know, so that if you get approved for the scholarship and you're not notified that the quarterly payment's going out, you need to let us know so we can chase it down and say, hey, hold on, you forgot somebody, and make sure that they get those payments in. Okay, that's it. I want to say it's simple, because I think it fairly is, but I also know there's, going to be some frustrations because the state of Florida, but wanted to make sure that we left an opportunity for Q&A. So, questions? Yes, Laura. You don't know this already, Laura? I mean, I swear, you're admission. No, it's good. Yeah, we just mentioned that. So I don't know if you had stepped out for a second. Yeah. So and as soon as we know, we will send it out. Yes. Correct. Yep. 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 Yeah, so exactly. If you sign up with them, they will send you the notifications, which is, again, we're going to monitor it, and so from that point of view, when we notify, we'll let you notify, but if you just want to be on the forefront and, you're tired of reading of all our emails and want to get a lot more emails from Step Up, go ahead and sign up for them too. So, yes, Laura, again. Yeah, exactly. Imagine, I know you guys now, we chase you down in car line for donations. Just imagine if I need to get you to sign a check. I'm going to throw myself in front of your cars. So, yes. Are these scholarships taxable? That's a good question. Yes, and you know what? I don't know the answer to that. I will find out, and I will send that out. Obviously, what I would say is, we will get an opinion from it, but I advise everybody to talk to their own tax people and get a qualified opinion based on your family and so forth, because it may be that if you hurt certain incomes, it's not, others it is. So I will try to find out what the general rule is and then go from there. So, but from what I understand, Flavia, do you have an answer on that? Okay. Okay. Great. So I'll find out about that and try to get a just general opinion of what that is. So, yes. Question? There's someone that's asking the website is saying pre-K, and it isn't just St. Mark's that is from K+, but I'm not sure which website because we can talk to that person. Sure. So, yeah. Sure. So, specifically, the Empowerment Scholarship is kindergarten through 12th grade. There are some other state scholarships. So for example, in terms of the pre-K3, there are scholarships programs which we've known for a long time called VPK. Okay? VPK, so if you go to the state website and you say, what are the ages that scholarships are available, they're going to give you from pre-K3 all the way up. But the Empowerment Scholarship is kindergarten above. Pre-K3 and pre-K4 is VPK. We do not accept VPK, and the reason being is just from a overall, there's some other requirements that we don't like about VPK. It affects some of our admissions in terms of VPK, and some requirements there. That's why we've never accepted it, and I don't see us accepting it into the future. So. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So first and foremost, and this is why when we look at our overall expenses and tuition, our tuition is, always going to be adjusted based on inflation and so forth. So, rule of thumb until this year was roughly around 2 to 3% was inflation. We look at tacking on a little more to make sure that we can keep our best teachers, make sure the facilities are up. So we've averaged around that 3 to 4% for the last couple of years in terms of tuition raises, okay? As far as the way we operate, that's the way we're going to continue to operate, okay? If you get the scholarship as a full paying parent, that's just a discount that you get, for this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after that. But if they change something, let's say they come in and they say, guess what, guys, you can't do chapel anymore because you're receiving scholarship funds. We say, thank you, that is who we are, that is our mission, that's what we feel is near and dear to our values. Here, we're not going to accept it anymore. Now, does that mean for our parents that have relied on this for 2 or 3 years to make these payments, is that going to be a hardship? It absolutely is going to be a hardship. And that's why we're having these conversations and making sure you understand that, that this can be yanked away. We're not going to yank it away overnight. It is going to be a yearly process, but it is something that needs to happen there. I will tell you, on our financial aid side, okay, one of the requirements now that if you're applying for financial aid at St. Mark's, you must apply for a state scholarship. That is a requirement. We have, as a organization, we budget a certain amount for financial aid every year because we feel it's part of our outreach as an Episcopal school to help those get an Episcopal education. With that being said, that budget has already been set. We are putting aside that money in a reserve scholarship account that allows us that if that were to be pulled away, we can still help our families continue that education from a financial aid point of view. Doesn't mean we're going to give them more. It just means that, that bridge we're going to help them with, in that time period. So we do have, and again, this is where we created the task force, and we really looked at a lot of different things, from a risk point of view, from a financial point of view, to make sure that we weren't going to be a school. And there are schools that have done this, where 10 years ago they started accepting these state scholarships. And as someone said, it's like a drug. You get hooked on it, and you end up this ends up being 40 to 50% of your operating budget. You can't back away from that as a school if they change. You will go under, you'll go bankrupt, And I think that I give credit to our Board of Trustees and to our vestry. We have very sound financial management that looked at this and said, okay, if we do this, this is how we're going to do it, to make sure we can always back out of it, because our mission is what's most important to us. And at the end of the day, whether we're 500, whether we're 200 students, okay, we're here to serve our mission, and that's what we're going to do. So, other questions? Yeah. So, and this is where two things. Number one is, one of the strategies that we have is, let's go back to the parent payment plans. Some schools will say, listen, here's your tuition minus, here's our tuition charge. Let's say it's $10,000 minus $5,000 for the scholarship. All you have to pay this year is $5,000. Okay? That's not how we're operating. What it is you have a $10,000 tuition payment. If you're paying over 10 months, you're paying us $1,000 every month. If that scholarship check comes in, we'll credit your account, okay? But you're still paying us $1,000 a month. What does that do? That does two things. Number one is it keeps you on a mental schedule that's what tuition is. It's not, oh, tuition is $5,000, I only need $5,000. It keeps it at that $10,000. That's one of the most important things. Number two is, we're going to remind our parents every single year, listen, this can be pulled away anytime. Please remember, if you're taking this and we decide not to take it, that could lead to a financial hardship. So one of the things that we suggest is, if you are able to pay our tuition in full, if that is something that you do on a regular basis, and thank you for that, look at this as a college savings account. Look at this as putting into the college savings. Now, I would advise, and I will tell you to talk to your tax, because if this comes in and you're able to take, that refund at the end of the year, for the money you'd already put into the fax account, and you get that back, there are some tax-free things you can put in that eventually later you can pull back out for private school education, okay? So there are some savings accounts that allow you to do that. Check with your tax consultant. And if you have any personal questions about it, come see me. I did it. I'll show you a roadmap. So, not that I'm a tax guy. Go talk to your tax guy. But what is? Yeah, yeah, and there's some things you can, yeah, exactly. There's some particulars in it. But so to your point, it is, we're looking at making sure we remind our parents. We're making sure on that side. From our side, we're looking at it as this is a benefit to our parents. The only risk from a school point of view, we're not getting hooked on this money from an operational point of view. If you as a parent gets hooked on it, risk beware, here's the warning sign. From our side, the only risk we have is really the requirement for our financial aid students that we're putting into play. And what we're doing is we're budgeting for full financial aid, and then we're putting that into a reserve account so that if it gets pulled away, we're not going back to those families that really wanted St. Mark's education in their 7th grade year saying, I'm sorry, scholarship's no longer here, your bill just went up by 10 grand, for families that can't afford that, and yet they got 2 years left to St. Mark's. So, I think, again, we're going to look at it year by year, but it's one in which I think we've done the good work we needed to do to minimize that risk. So, yes. Yeah, speak up. I apologize. And again, yeah. Yes. This is the empowerment scholarship. Correct. Correct. We're not accepting the other scholarships. Correct. 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 The only other scholarship, and I mentioned this in the beginning, the only other scholarship we accept, and it's actually we don't accept it because the check is sent directly to the parents, is the Gardner. Yeah. We don't accept Gardner, and we tell them we don't accept Gardner, but we have families that get the Gardner scholarship because it's not required to be sent to the school. All other scholarships, if you are enrolled in a private school, it has to be applied towards tuition. That's, again, I will make that point again, because some people say, hey, I paid tuition in full, I'm going to get this scholarship, why can't I just get that check? And the answer is that money has to go towards tuition. And it will show on your fax account that that went towards tuition. Okay? Yep. Yes, Flavia. Okay. Consult your tax accountant, please. Yes. Yes. That was my gut, but I didn't want to say it. But again, exactly. But make sure you talk to your tax accountant, please. We are not tax accountants. We do not advise on your taxes. I do not advise on your financial investments. Yep. So, yes. Yes. Yeah, AAA. Yeah. Yeah. And what happens is these SFOs open up for renewal earlier than what they open up for new applications. Now, AAA, sometimes you can go in, even though it's the renewal, and you can go in and apply, and they'll look at your application, and they'll process it, and so forth. But again, if you've done it, no problem. It's great. Just realize exactly what Laura had said, and that was a good point. I forgot about that. That when that check comes in, I'm going to throw myself in front of your car to get you to sign it. Okay? Well, you're going to have to come in and sign it, is what it is. And so that's a piece. And it's also going to physical check. Step up, we get it electronically. Yes.
The family also can apply for step up. No, doesn't matter that they apply to AAA. The thing is, when they get the award, they have to choose between which one they're going to receive.
Thank you. That's a great clarification. So whether you apply for AAA or you apply through Step Up, at the end of the process, you're going to have to choose which one you want to go through, okay? And again, we would graciously appreciate if you would choose Step Up, but it's a family choice. Make whatever choice you feel comfortable for your family. Yes?
This is just a comment, we actually get the UA scholarship. And I made the mistake last year of doing that, applying for both AAA and Step Up. And one thing got funded through AAA and one through Step Up. So I would suggest not doing that because it is a 31-person church. AAA is the worst, they don't have an online portal, you can never reach them. It is
Yep.
horrific.
Yep.
Do not apply for AAA. I mean,
That is, yeah. Yeah, from the school's point of view, I will say we have a preference, but I cannot, push one or the other. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
The thing is like the unique abilities is cheaper, because you have to apply for the yield. No, I know, but I'm saying the portal is the same.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
And the rest doesn't pay for it,
Yeah.
so that's why we suggest you go to
Yeah. Yeah, and we do, and we have a lot of families, such as yourself, that do receive, and we appreciate the feedback because, again, from us, we're some of us are brand new to this, some of us have been in this already. So if you have helpful hints like that, yeah, please send it to us. That's we appreciate that because, again, we want all of our parents to make sure it's as easy as process as possible, and don't get frustrated because, again, we know that your frustration, when you get frustrated with the SFOs, guess who you're coming to see? Exactly. And there's not much I can do besides ask Flavia to pick up the phone and call up and see what we can do to help and so forth. But, if you can't get in touch with them, we can't get in touch with them. So we're calling the same phone number. The only other phone number I've got is I've got the head of the state education board, okay, and their head office that runs it. But when I call him, he's going to say file a complaint or call the SFO. That's all they're going to say. So. What other questions? Any other questions online?
the person on the chat is saying that should I apply to Step Up even though I already applied to AAA? I would suggest yes, because she can deny her application on the
Well, I tell you what, Flavia, with that person, I think we have who it is. Why don't you give them a call tomorrow? Yeah, why don't you give them a call tomorrow and maybe call Step Up or AAA or whatever it is, and we can work through that individual. Absolutely, yeah. If you have those individual questions, if you've stepped forward for some reason and you have a question, Flavia Duddy, we have her email address up here that you can see, as well as she's listed in our portal. But again, give us a call. We'll answer those. And if we don't know the answer, like I said, I didn't know the answer about text, we'll jump online with Step Up or whoever it is and try to get that question answered as quickly as possible. So, any other questions? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to stay here until I think the Prism concert starts at 6:30. I'm here till 6:30, and then I'm walking over there. So I'll stay here as long as you guys want and answer any questions. Anything else? Great. Want to thank you guys for coming this evening. Appreciate